So what happens if you're a person that doesn't identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth and you're also a singer? What voice type are you? If you're a trans woman, can you be a baritone? If you're a trans man and you're an alto before you transition, are you still an alto? All these questions and more answered in like several seconds. Your voice type stays the same no matter how you identify externally or internally. Our current system of thinking of voice types is sort of outdated and it's sort of limiting, but also kind of accurate in describing what people's voices tend to sound like, and more importantly, where they tend to be comfortable singing. So for an example of this, it's constricting because putting human voices in basically one of three categories: bass, baritone, tenor for men, and alto, mezzo, soprano, and soprano for women. Those are like the three things you can be, but obviously the human voice cannot be constrained and described in just those three categories. But sometimes they are. For example, my typical low range note is like a low E, maybe an E flat, and my high range note is like an A, maybe a B flat if I'm having the best vocal day of my life. But my tessitura, which is basically the comfortable range of your singing, is maybe from like the A above that E to the F sharp below that B flat. That classifies me as some sort of baritone. It doesn't describe the timbre, the color of my voice, which is sort of on the dramatic side, but it does give me, in the general framework of all of the voice types, it gives me a region to know, okay, these kind of songs are suitable for your voice to sing. It's a very valuable tool. But it also has been around a long time and has not really had any updates. So my proposition is that gender does not have to do with your voice type. Gender being the inward or outward expression of your identity and how you feel in relation to those other members of society, which is a really nebulous and meaningless, but also nuanced and meaningful concept that can either mean you're on a spectrum or gender doesn't exist. That whole thing doesn't need to be involved with what's going on in here. What's going on in here is a purely physical phenomenon. I will still be a baritone no matter if I identify as a lesbian, which I guess I do. That was the last episode, check it out. So yes, I would posit if you're a trans woman and you're a tenor, you're not an alto. If you transition, you're still a tenor. That doesn't make you a man. It just makes you a person who has a higher mid-range. If you were assigned female at birth and you identify as a man and you have a vocal range of about the A below middle C and the A above the treble clef, then you're probably a mezzo-soprano and you'll stay a mezzo-soprano. It doesn't mean that you're a woman, it just means that you're a mezzo-soprano. It's fine. We absolutely can and should just decouple the thought of gender and or sex relating necessarily to voice type. So there's that. But secondly, there's the much more vexing issue of casting and who do we cast in which part, and they identify as that, but they might not openly identify or present as that way, and that's a whole big ordeal. I can imagine it could be very confusing for directors trying to cast roles that are generally these are men roles, these are women roles, when there are people who don't fit within the framework of gender as you know it. So I have a blanket solution that I think might not work for everything, but it might definitely work for some things. And maybe everything. Transposition. Transposition is taking the key of a song and making it into a different key. This is usually used to make a particular vocalist more comfortable singing that song, so it's more within their range. So the high notes are within the high notes that they can reach, the low notes are within the low notes they can reach. I don't see any reason why we don't do this literally all the time for everything. For example, the incredibly high amount of incredibly high tenor parts that we've had written in this contemporary musical theater genre / hell that we have now. There is no way that every community production, amateur production, or school production is gonna be able to produce someone with Aaron Tvei's voice. That's just not possible, because you're dealing with young people who do not have matured vocal cords. They're not going to be able to say, I'm alive, I'm so alive, without sounding like kind of creaky, because they just haven't built up their I don't know, you don't build them. Little unclear on the science, but your vocal cords mature, as does your voice. You can't expect a 16-year-old to sing I'm Alive, although it's a bad example because you wouldn't sing that in high school. But even Catch Me If You Can, that's what I was thinking of, because that's super high and super pop tenor, and that's totally unrealistic, because even if the young people there are not even baritones, and they might truly be tenors, that doesn't mean they have the range to go up that high. So what's the simple solution to that? Make it lower. Make it so the person cast as it can actually freaking sing it. It's a very simple solution, but I see it very rarely done. And with regards to gender, I was just in an alumni cabaret for this company, and we all did songs that another gender usually sings, and mine happened to be in a key that was exactly in my range. It topped out at only an E, and it was only down to an A. But some girls that were there, they did tenor songs, and they did them down the octave, which was totally wrong, because that's not in your range. Your voice doesn't like to go that low. Don't make it go that low. You can sound much better just taking it up 4 keys. Just do that all the time. And as far as I can tell, I think it's legal within the contract that we have in these shows. I was researching MTI, Musical Theater International, which controls the rights to most of the big shows that you would be able to do at, theater, amateur productions, school productions. They control the rights for a lot of shows, and they give you a lot of information. And as far as I can tell, they offer transposition services, so you can make the keys fit your actors. But I just never see professionally or amateurly people doing this, and I don't understand why. It opens up the door for the people who are best for the role, and for people who might not conform to whatever gender norms you're trying to get. It allows the best people and more diverse people to come in and to get the part that they deserve, instead of giving it to Johnny, who isn't really talented, but he's, a semi-attractive looking young fellow, and he can kind of squeak the notes up there, as opposed to Fernando that can that has a higher, an alto voice that can, that was, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so when I was looking at MTI, interestingly, I saw this question about Genderblind casting. It was about Jekyll and Hyde in particular. Garbage show, if you were wondering what I think of it. Absolute, total, hot garbage fire of a musical, but that's another video. Anyway, the person was asking, hey, there are a lot of male roles, which is a common theater problem, even musical theater. There are too many male roles, if you ask me, and not enough female roles, or gender neutral roles. And they were asking, there's so many male roles, can we cast women in them, and can we also, if we do that, change the pronouns? And the staff response was, yeah, you can cast women as you can cast whatever gender you want to play the parts, but you can't change the gender of the actual character. That means you can't change the pronouns that they use. And I'm not sure entirely what I think of it. I on some level respect that as a creator, because sometimes there are specific reasons you want a character to be like, okay, they need to be this gender because of some commentary that you're making about something later on or something. A lot of times it's just, all right, let's give that to a young dude because that's what tends to happen. But generally there's not that much reason for it. So transpose things. Just everybody start freaking transposing things. It's so good. It's so simple. All you have to do is plug it in to a music notation software, which more and more people are being able to have access to, or have like your accompanist friend or your music arranger friend or something, someone who has some musical ability. All you have to do is type in the notes and just like click up the button 4 times, and then you have a song that's better for you to sing. Literally, why isn't everyone doing this all of the time? So that was a little 2-part rant about what voice type you are, not relying on what gender you are, and then what that means for casting. So here's a special announcement. The video is not over yet. I have a question for you. I actually have 2 questions for you, and then you'll have some questions for me, because one, I want to know if you know someone personally that is like out as transgender or like non-binary and they don't present as either. Even tell me what your experience with them, or if you're like a person like that, tell me what your experience with casting has been, because I'm really interested to know how that works, because personally I haven't dealt with it. So I would love to know how that works for you. And secondly, ask me questions. This is a new thing that somebody in the comments suggested. I'm gonna do a Q&A video. Probably, I mean, as much questions as there are as I can answer. It might be a weekly thing, it might be like a monthly thing, just depending on how many questions I get. You can ask about literally whatever you want. You can ask about LGBT stuff, you can ask about stuff about me, or you can ask about, you know, what this channel is about, ostensibly musical theater. So ask away and I will answer. And if you know that if you've been in the comments, that I am very active and engaging with you guys there, because you're actually the best. It's like a non-stop validation parade. So what would you think if I started a Patreon? Would you like be interested in that? Is that a thing that would happen if I set it up? Just wondering. I'm just gonna put that on the ether. Well, knocked over my lamp. Basically ask me anything. I'm not guaranteeing that I'll answer, but I will most likely answer all of them, if not most of them. So thank you for watching. Thank you for all of the comments about my nails and my lipstick. Someone asked like, oh, do you get tired of that? I'm the opposite of tired of hearing that. Keep that sweet validation going. I am 100% okay with it. Anyway, ILY, bye.